Hi, and welcome to Life, Love, Insight, Fertility Experiences. I'm here today with Julie Eshelman, and it is just such a joy and a privilege to get to talk to you on this podcast today. We had the absolute pleasure, or at least it was my pleasure, working together on Resolve Advocacy Day because Julie is the co-chair of Advocacy Day, which, for those of you who don't know, for Resolve is the Luminous Resolve is the National Infertility Awareness Organization, and we'll be telling you about it. So, Julie, thank you for being here. And she's done so many things, and the most exciting is her work with the military. And so, I'm going to let her tell you a little bit about herself.
Thanks, Lori, for having me. So again, my name is Julie Eshelman. I'm the founder, CEO, and president of Building Military Families Network,
Mhm.
which is a nonprofit that I started to support and empower our military and veteran families as they are on this journey to build and grow their families. And we do that through support, education, and resources. And I kind of came to that after my more than 8-year long infertility journey myself, which in the past 7 years, we've moved 5 times. And so that comes with its own challenges.
It's incredible, when you start to think about what you've gone through personally and then what people in the military go through, and not to have coverage and not to have support and not even to have your partner around many times,
Mhm.
have to go through fertility treatment is overwhelming. It's insurmountable to really wrap your brain around for some people. So what gave you the strength and the thought after 8 years of struggling to do this?
Well, it really came out of my own frustrations and my own need, to have some kind of organization or somewhere to turn to that not only understood my journey of trying to conceive and going through and experiencing infertility, but that also understood military life and understood that I move a lot and that I don't have, a reliable community support system, and how hard and challenging that can be. And I looked, and there wasn't a single military organization that was even talking about infertility, let alone miscarriages and things like that. And it
Um,
was really frustrating. And I had found Resolve. And while Resolve does amazing things to support, family building issues, they still didn't really understand me as a military spouse and what I needed. And there wasn't even a military group for me to connect with other military families. And so I changed a lot of that.
yeah, it always amazes me when I hear how people take the struggle they've gone through and then like try and create a community and a fix for it because there's so many layers to the military family and
Mhm.
so many layers to what you've gone through aside from just trying to conceive and the huge journey that takes of an 8-year journey, which is just overwhelming for so many, and then all the emotions and the roller coaster that you go through, and then to take all of that and say, but wait a second, I'm in the military, move 5 times in 8 years. Is that that's what you said,
In the
right?
last 7.
Unless, I mean, and you have a child, it's just amazing, right? And your your spouse is not around a lot of the time. So you're going through this grief, you're going through these injections, you're going through all that everybody goes through for fertility infertility, but you're also changing doctors and changing clinics. And you have to think about your support system, you have to think about your financial coverage. There's just so much to take in. So how did you even start with the organization? And how did you even, you know, put yourself in the position mentally to get this going?
Eh, I mean, it wasn't like it happened overnight. There was, I think, a series of events over a couple of years that really led me to that point. And so I think the defining moment, I think, was after I had my second loss. And so at the time, we were living in the Chicago, Illinois area. Um, and I had experienced a missed miscarriage. And so I had to have, we decided to have a DNC because we were getting ready to travel out of town to visit family and to go to a wedding. And I didn't want to have, you know, because the other options could result in needing a DNC in the end anyways. And
Right.
so, we made that decision, but it was also in October, which is Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month. And I had seen a post about it, and that just really started to shift how I was seeing my journey and my struggles, because I realized that I wasn't alone. And we decided to start sharing what we were going through, because up until that point, nobody knew we were struggling with infertility. Nobody knew about our first loss. And was having surgery, so I kind of had to tell my parents that I was having surgery, and so, we had to tell them, and that, was a huge relief. And then opening up about that kind of set in motion all of the things that happened after. Later that year, during, the COVID pandemic, Resolve was having their first virtual advocacy day, and I signed up for that. And that was another one of those, catalysts to getting me to where I am today, because it opened my eyes that I could use my frustrations with, the lack of insurance coverage, the lack of support, the lack of anybody talking about these issues in the military community. And I could do something about it. I could change that pain and frustration and have a purpose. And so from there, I got more involved with Resolve. I joined their volunteer committee to help plan advocacy days. Um, I decided that, there wasn't anybody doing anything in our community for military family building. And so I decided to become a peer support group host, and created Resolve's first military peer support group, which I still run today. And that really continued to set those things in motion. And so, over the years, watching the military community and not really seeing anybody in the military space supporting families that were struggling, there just came a point where I couldn't sit around and watch that anymore. I had to say, all right, nobody else is doing it. I think I have the skills to do this. Let's do it. And it was just, I had to find my 3 seconds of courage and just do it, right? Because nobody else was doing it, and there was the need.
Incredible. But I mean, it really is. It takes a lot more than 3 seconds. But like,
It does, but it's that initial 3 seconds that, you know,
yeah,
you
that
hit the
courage.
button and you start the process.
Yeah, yeah, no, you did, because I mean, there's already been change since you took the initiative. You took the rein on. I mean, you're meeting with Capitol Hill. You're doing all of these things that you turn this frustration. And when we look at the word frustration, and we define it and we kind of take it out of the realm, we're looking at, you know, anger, sadness, depression, and feelings as if you don't have control.
Mhm.
And you kind of just like took that right on and created something to help really shed the light on the military and what the military needs. So, how do families find out about you, and how does Congress receive this information that we need to be sure that we're protecting our military families with coverage and support when they want to build
Um, yeah, I mean, there really isn't, you know, an easy answer, as far as, showing Congress. There aren't the studies, and there isn't the research there into, how many military families are really affected by, infertility, or even just how many military families are affected by deployments or other separations within the military that delay their family building,
right.
PCSing, or um, in civilian terms, moving, across the country to our next duty stations, and how that impacts our timelines for building our families.
Right.
Um, there is another organization that, they put out an annual survey. And in 2021, they did release some data and asked some questions in regards to family building, but that hasn't been a staple of data that has been released. We're in 2024, and so the statistics and the data that we have is from 2021.
Mhm.
And so, there's not, consistency. And that's one thing that my organization is looking to do. We are looking to do consistent surveys on these issues to gather the data.
Mhm.
Now, in terms of the military nonprofit space, we're the new kids on the block. We're still working really hard to get our name out there. And for, military families and veteran families and, those in our community to know that, like, hey, we're here. We have support groups. We have, an education center that has a lot of information on it, and more is added every month. And we have our resources that connect our families to the things that are going to help them on their journey. So we have a website, we have social media, we're doing our best to get the word out there and, really building relationships, in the community so that people know we're here.
Yeah. And what do you think is the most important aspects of people to know about those who are in the military when it comes to family building? I know you just listed some of them, but like if you were wanted to tell the people who don't really recognize the struggle of the military, because people go overseas, they fight for our country, they support our country, they go for training, they get hurt, they get injured, and that can impact their family building as well.
Mhm. Um, I I mean, it's really hard to pinpoint to just one thing, Lori.
Doesn't have to
You
be
know,
one. Doesn't have to be one.
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things, this military lifestyle, we're very nomadic, in a sense. And that, I think, how do I want to say this? It causes a lot of delays, delays because we are, maybe waiting to be able to get our embryos shipped from our previous duty station, that maybe is on the other side of the country. And that's a process. But there's also the delays in being able to get referrals, because even though TRICARE doesn't cover IVF or IUIs for the vast majority of our military families, we still have to go to an in-network clinic because diagnostics, and some monitoring type of appointments are covered. So the referral process takes a long time, because when you move someplace new, you have to
Mhm.
get set up with your primary care manager, which sometimes, for instance, we moved here in July and I don't have an appointment to establish care with my primary care manager until December.
Yeah.
And so then you have to wait for the referral, then you have to wait, if your clinic has a wait list, you have to wait for that. And so that's more delays, and then there's delays
I'm
with
thinking to myself, there's more delays on top of like, the infamous 2-week wait. So
right.
it's like delay after delay after delay.
And then there's things like
An
deployments
adjustment. Yeah.
that, my husband was gone for an entire year. And so we couldn't do anything. We're just kind of in a standstill.
Yeah.
And so I think that, it's not like we snap our fingers and we can get an appointment and we can make the things happen. Sometimes we have to wait months just for our partner or our spouse to be home to be able to do their part.
Right. Right. And then hope they're able to have, you know, no medical complications in order to proceed.
Right. Yeah. And we have tight timelines, and um I mean, and these are things that, people on the civilian side deal with also, but we're dealing with them tenfold, right? Like,
Well, what I'm hearing you say is you're dealing with them also, and we're not under, underrepresenting what anybody goes through on a fertility journey.
Right.
But in addition to that, there's a constant move. I love the word that you're using for nomadic state, right? It's very
Mhm.
nomadic, and you're moving, and the partner who is in the military is moving, and everybody is moving at the same time. And then you have an embryo that has to be moved. So
Mhm.
everything is moving pieces. And that's really very, very hard, on top of trying to connect with a healthcare provider, and
Mhm.
on top of just waiting, right? You're waiting
Or,
for.
and for the spouse, that's not serving, they are navigating, trying to find new employment and,
The community.
and community, and it's like you just keep piling on the stuff.
Yeah. And so you're talking about, is what you also offer is this community to people, an
Mhm.
online community.
Yes.
Yeah. And how do people access that, or how would they want to connect with others,
Yeah, so we have support groups. And
Mhm.
so that is how we are really, at least at this time, striving to build community, is through those support groups so that you can gather with peers that are connected to the military and that understand that, like, hey, we just moved somewhere and I literally have nobody to talk to about this. And like, I just need to vent to somebody that gets it. And, or they've got questions like, I just moved and, I don't know what I'm supposed to do now. And, we can help one another and just kind of be there to celebrate, or even just cry along with you.
Yeah.
Um, in the future, we hope to be able to kind of build community in a different space as well. Um, but we're new and we can't do it all at once. And
Yeah.
so we also recognize that as a new organization, like we know that there are more needs that we're not quite ready to meet because we're still growing and, setting everything in place to be able to do those as well.
Yeah, well, it's an awful lot. And then the other big piece that you mentioned was the legislation
Mhm.
coverage, or just for coverage. And how do you negotiate that, or how do you make inways so that there can be coverage for the military when it comes to fertility treatment? And
Yeah, I mean, and so a lot of the work that I do, on that side of things is as the co-chair for Advocacy Day with Resolve, really working to raise up other advocates and teach others, how they can advocate for our military,
Mhm.
and helping them understand more about military life so that they can be the advocate that we need for the military and veteran community. I also, I do, um, interviews and, podcasts like this, to kind of help raise that awareness. And, I have relationships with people on Capitol Hill, working to advocate for our military. Um, it's not necessarily a huge focus of building military families network. It's something that we do, but we're not very focused on the policy side. We're really focused on supporting and empowering
Uh-huh.
the rest of our community.
That makes sense. And I think it's so great that you have these two pieces. And the other piece, you mentioned two other pieces, and one was the resources and one was some research.
Mhm.
So do you want to speak to those just a little bit more?
Yeah, so one of our goals, we really want to be able to amplify, our military community stories and amplify their voice. And when we're on Capitol Hill, they want the numbers.
Mhm.
And nobody's really has the numbers. There are some studies from 2019. There's the surveys from Blue Star Families in 2021, but there isn't like a consistent year-to-year measurable data that's being collected. And so we are looking at building some kind of survey and a way for us to gather that information year after year so that we can really track it, and so that when we have those meetings on Capitol Hill with legislators, that we can show them the data because they want the data, but there
Mhm.
is no data. And
Yeah.
so, that is something that we want to do. But that research also allows us to stay connected to the community that we're serving, and be able to provide the things that they need. Our surveys will always have, questions about how we can better serve our community and
Uh-huh.
what things they need. And one of those things that we're always hear, um, from participants in our support groups or people, that reach out to us is, that they're trying to find X, Y, and Z, which
Mhm.
is why we have our resource library.
Uh-huh.
And, we're adding things to that all the time. We research and vet every resource that we put on our website to make sure that it is something that will bring value,
Mhm.
that will help them on their journey, or that will provide support,
Mhm.
um, so that they can feel empowered and supported on their journeys.
Wonderful. That's really important.
Mhm.
And and what about resources? What do you need in terms of resources?
Oh, I mean, anything. So some
How
of
do
the
you
things.
see I'd like people to see the T-shirt
Oh,
because
yes,
fabulous fundraiser of
yes.
106.
So some of the resources that we have the 8 military treatment facilities, or military hospitals that offer fertility services, whether it's IUI, diagnostics, IVF. We have fertility clinics that offer discounts to military and veterans. That's, when you've got to pay out of pocket for IVF, a 25% discount goes a long way, in paying for that out of pocket. We also have grants. There's a section for adoption resources, for things that um, make sure that military families understand everything that they need to have in place if they want to pursue adoption.
Mhm.
And so our resource library is growing and it grows every month. But like I said, we vet each and every resource that we put on there because
Yeah.
we want to make sure that it is something that will bring value to those that need the resources.
Okay, well, that's wonderful. And if somebody um, wanted to get involved or somebody had any questions for you, how would they get a hold of you?
Yeah, so there is a contact section on our website, and they can fill out a little form on there, and we'll get back to them as soon as we can. If there are people that are interested in volunteering, we have a link to our volunteer application on our website. And I think that answered your question.
It does. Can you give everybody the website?
Yeah, it is buildingmilitaryfamiliesnetwork.org.
Okay, building family military.
Building Military Families Network.org. It's a
Okay,
long one, I know.
so I think it's clearer. So and really says what it's doing. And I do want to mention that you won Military Spouse of the Year award.
I did, yes.
So congratulations on that. I can understand that having worked with you and knowing you a little bit, why you would have won that award.
Oh, yeah. I am the 2019 Unattached Army Spouse of the Year and the 2022 Fort Leavenworth Spouse of the Year.
Wow.
And when I was nominated in 2022 for my advocacy work for the military family building community.
Congratulations. Well deserved.
Thank you.
Well deserved. Well, thank you. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with people? Do you think?
Just that they're not alone.
Yeah.
Whether you are connected to the military or you are a civilian, that is listening to this, or even a doctor, or somebody in the medical profession, you're not alone in this. And there's power in your story.
Yeah. And there's power in community.
Yes.
Yeah. And so thank you so much for being here today and taking the time to talk. I really appreciate it and so glad that we could at least let people know more about your organization and the work that you've done. And
Yeah.
just your incredible journey of how you took all of this and created something to help so many.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Lori, for having me. It's always an honor to be able to share more about my story and help people learn more about the military.
Well, thank you. I think it's important knowledge for people to have. So if anybody has any questions or comments, please feel free to reach out to me at lauriemetz.net. And thank you.